Hi folks, we're out in the garden this morning. We woke up a little bit surprised this morning on the way to breakfast. Had a little bit of frost. Just barely. The window wasn't frosted, but like the plastic trim on my pickup had frost on it. So I've been procrastinating on getting out here and getting my paste tomatoes out of the garden. But we are out of time because of that frost. We got to get it done. I don't want to let these sit out here any longer. You can see these vines are just absolutely loaded. And I've already got a whole bushel bucket just out of a plant and a half. The vines are kind of giving up the goat, but these tomatoes are still nice, firm, plump tomatoes. But they're not going to take much of a frost, so we got to get these going. So that's what we're doing this morning, picking all these San Marzanos. And we're going to get them in the house and make ketchup like I promised you guys. But we're going to get this done and we'll be back at you. Alright, we're done picking tomatoes. I got 2 big double bushel baskets full of paste tomatoes, San Marzano tomatoes. Those tomatoes were very, very heavily loaded. Some of those vines were like bunches of grapes. You had 10 or 15 tomatoes to a cluster. Crazy amounts of tomatoes. And I didn't get anywhere near all of them. If they weren't absolutely pristine, I left them in the garden. If they were soft at all, I left them there. So we probably got 2/3 of the tomatoes that were out there on those vines. And I think I had 5 of the vines there. And we talk a lot about indeterminate and determinate tomatoes. Because these tomatoes are determinate variety, you notice they all kind of ripened at the same time. And if you're doing big batches of anything, that's what you want. You don't want to be having to save this stuff. Just go out and pick it and knock it out. But we're running out of time because if we're starting to get frost, these tomatoes had to go. And we took the opportunity to get some slicers out of the garden as well. We got a few nice slicers off the vines just in case this cold spell continues. But we probably got 100 pounds of tomatoes here. Each one of those baskets is probably 50 pounds easy. But we're going to go inside and start getting these processed. They're going to be cooking down for a couple days, so this is going to take a while. So I'm glad I'm doing it today because I don't have plans tomorrow, so they can cook down all night long and all day tomorrow if they want to. And we'll get them canned up tomorrow, but we'll show you some of the process. So we got about half of our basket washed, and then we cored and cut them in half. These tomatoes are at their peak of ripeness, and that's why we went out and got them today. They're still nice and firm. They're not mushy at all. Any that are mushy, I'm throwing out. And they're at their peak of their flavor too, so this is going to be fantastic stuff. So what we're going to do now is we're going to measure out 25 pounds of this into another bowl on our kitchen scale. The recipe calls for 25 pounds. And then we're going to come over here and put them in our cooker and start cooking these down. It's going to be a pretty long process. Brandy, are you ready for this? You got your squirrel? All right. But we're going to start cooking this stuff down, and we'll get the rest of the recipe going once we get 25 pounds of tomatoes into this cooker. Alright, we've got our 25 pounds of tomatoes in the cooker. And you'll notice it fits just about full. So one of these cookers works very well for this. The other reason these cookers cook well, because we're going to have to simmer these for a long time to cook them down. Most of the heat on these cookers comes from the outside and not from the bottom. So the tomatoes aren't going to scorch on the bottom. We'll just come by and stir them every now and then to distribute the heat a little bit better. But we're going to get the lid on this thing. We've got it turned up to about 300 degrees. And we're going to get that going. Now these other tomatoes over here, we're going to continue to core and half these tomatoes. And I have a whole nother bushel bucket down here that we're going to do the same to. We're going to wash them, core them, and slice them in half. And then I'm going to put them in 2-gallon freezer bags that I got and put them in the freezer. So when we want to do another batch of something, we will have a bunch of these tomatoes. And you've noticed that I haven't skinned these tomatoes before I start cooking them. I don't skin them before I eat them, so I'm not worried about taking the skins off. We're going to use an immersion blender right in that cooker and blend all that stuff together. So we're going to continue to do this, get our bags in the freezer. We'll come back when we're adding our other ingredients into the pot. We're going to let that cook down for a little bit, and we'll see you then. So as you consume stuff out of your garden and make recipes and such, another thing you need to think about is seed saving. So the liquid in the bottom of these bowls is full of seeds when we're done. So we collect them and then we pour them into a little strainer like this, and there's got that goo all over them that you got to get off. So we just run them under cold water and shake them around until that goo starts coming off and you no longer have any of the red stuff. And then we'll lay these out on a piece of parchment paper and let them dry, and then we got little seed envelopes that we put them in, and we'll mark them. San Marzano tomatoes. We do that with all our peppers, squash, everything. Beans. So we're not buying any seeds next year, and they keep up with this COVID nonsense and tell us again that we can't buy seeds. Tough luck, I already got mine. Okay folks, it's been out this all day. It's 11 o'clock at night. We got the immersion blender in the pot and we got everything stirred up, and we've added the rest of the spices and the vinegar and stuff, and we'll put all the amounts down in the description. And then we're going to let this cook down all night. I get up pretty early, so we'll let this keep going and we'll see you in the morning. Alright folks, it's the next morning. I actually got up about 3 a.m. and it was getting pretty close, so I turned the heat down to 250. I had it running on 300. But we've got it all mixed up. And you can see how it kind of stacks up on itself now. You can see the lines in it. We're just about there. Pretty close. I think if it was cold, it'd even be a little bit thicker. But I'm going to go just a little bit further, and I'm going to run the immersion blender through here again to smooth it out a little bit. And we'll come back when it's ready to put in jars. You'll see a little black bit right there, probably from the bottom corner of the pan down here. But the immersion blender will make that go away. It doesn't taste or smell burnt at all in any way, shape, or form. So it's looking really good. It's probably reduced by 50%, I would say, because remember we were clear up to the top when we started. We'll be back in a bit. Starting to look like ketchup. Okay, it's as thick as we need it to be, and we're starting to can it up. We're putting this in pint jars, which is a 16-ounce jar. We're filling our jars over here, bringing the jars over here hot, and then once they're filled, we get a cap out of here, and we lid it up, and then we put it in the water bath over here to keep it warm. We're going to continue filling these up, and I'll bring you back when we're ready to close the canner up. Alright, we got it all jarred up in pint jars. We made sure we wiped the tops of them before we put the lids on, and we put the rings on finger tight. So we got 16 pint jars. We're going to let this canner come to a good rolling boil. We're almost there. We put the lid on it. And we're going to run it for 20 minutes once it comes to a full boil. And that's for our altitude here. Normally at sea level to 1,000 feet, you'd only need about 15 minutes. And we'll come back when we got them all done sitting on the counter. There we go, folks. 16 pints of ketchup. Really good stuff. Really love the flavor of it. But we had to do something with all them tomatoes. You got to store that abundance while you got it and don't let it go to waste. So if you got any questions, feel free to post them in the comments. I'll try to answer them for you. And again, I'll put the recipe in the comments. So, or not the comments, the description. So you don't have to write it all down while you're watching the video. So again, remember we got Facebook, Mark Kelly Farm on Facebook. And we're going to make some of our sweet Thai chili sauce now with all the peppers we picked yesterday too. But I'll do a video of that and post that in the next couple days. So until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. We love you guys. Come on back and see us.